we're live from Westeros. Oh no, I mean the Redlands. Yeah, we're Game of Thrones is canceled tonight because everyone wanted to watch Clinton cut some hair. Right, Clinton?
That's right. That's what I was told.
Well, I'm George Scarpese, and we're here with the Hairbraine community from Southern California to feature our man Clinton Norris, who's an incredible educator and hair cutter and just passionate community member. He's got a beautiful makeover tonight on his model. Is it Kendall? Kendall is also a hairdresser, so word up, Hairdresser Squared going on right here.
Hey, Frank.
So it looks like you've already started.
Yes.
What's happening here?
So we're going to make a little bit of a tighter graduation. So I wanted to move something away from the typical average 45 degrees buildup of weight. So I made it pretty lean. So I started here in the center. I wanted to start at my shortest point to my longest point. So here I started building up graduation with my finger angle. So I pulled this down, built it up, started pivoting, so this will get a little longer because the section's wider at the back.
Right on. So let's talk a little bit about this. So, you know, the question always comes up, and guys, everyone out there who has questions, you know what to do. Just pop in the question and we'll do our best to get them through to Clinton. One of the questions that always comes up is pivoting or no pivoting, and why pivot versus why not pivot. What's your take on it?
So as far as pivoting for me, if I were to stay just straight vertical, diagonal forward, what I think I would tend to do is I would have a lot of control just on my vertical shape, and over direction would control my horizontal shape. So what I want to do is eventually control my horizontal shape with a finger angle. So here I'm creating my graduation with a finger angle, but as I pivot and rotate, then I can now be in charge of my horizontal shape with a finger angle.
So it's kind of a study in weight distribution.
Yeah.
You've got it all going on. You kind of set the finger angle more vertically,
right,
and then by pivoting, you're distributing what you call a kind of a geometric shape.
Geometric shape.
All right, so let's talk about that now. Are you working more square, more rounded, more triangular, or A-line?
Oh man, that's such a debate. Yeah. Just about if it's triangular, geometric shape, what we call it. You know, a lot of times I'm more concerned with the end result, and longer in the front, longer in the back. That's all I care about.
Nice.
You know, some people have a name for it. You know, I think it's to sell systems maybe.
Yeah.
But I care about the end result. You know, this is going to be longer towards the front.
Okay.
I want this to be weaker here and a little bit heavier to behind the ear, just to preserve some sort of density.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like Kendall's got a beautiful hairline. It's working with you so far, huh? Laying down nicely.
Yeah, no, she's got the best.
Any tips on how to judge the hairline? What do you look for?
Yeah, so assessing the hairline is huge, especially if you're going to expose the hairline. At the very bottom of the nape, the skin tends to be a little bit more elastic, a little bit more flexible. So I want to be able to see how flexible the skin is. So if I do something tight, something short like graduation, I can see how much the skin will move, so I can accommodate my tension for that. Second is I want to see growth pattern. So if it's growing forward, growing to the side, typically people have one growth pattern, so it'll be heading west. You know what I mean? And so I kind of make a decision on that. I'll typically work with the more troubled side first. That way I can match the other side that's kind of doing what I want it to do.
Right. Well, we got a lot of our friends coming in, watching. Marina Lantos says hi. She likes my haircut. Thanks. Got it on the beach. A little clipper cut, number 4 over the whole head, just the way I like it, quick and easy. Amber Harlan's watching. She says, woohoo, go Clinton. Aaron Johnson joined. He had to, I guess, pull himself away from his Game of Thrones party.
2 TVs.
I know Aaron is hosting a Game of Thrones party, like they're in full costume.
Oh my gosh.
He's got a Daenerys thing going on, right, right, Aaron? Right on, guys. We've got Whitney joining us from Columbus, Ohio. Drew Milson, just like the classes at Paul Mitchell. It must have been one of your students.
Yeah, Drew went to school.
So what I mentioned earlier was that you're a teacher, and in the true sense of the word, you're a full-time educator.
Full-time educator.
How long have you been doing that?
I started educating in 2008, I believe, is the time I really started being full-blown, 100% pure educator, not taking guests.
Right on.
That's 2008.
And what's that been for you? What's that been like?
I started with the company Paul Mitchell, so that's where actually I went to school at. So I went there as a student, as a future professional. I fell in love with the culture. I had a really special experience. Manny, do you know Manny? I think you guys know Manny.
Very well.
So Manny was my teacher, and so
Manny Sam Morton.
Yeah. So he was my teacher. So I had a really phenomenal experience with him, guiding me through things and allowing me to kind of step outside the box of a standard future professional. And it was really, really good to be around him. And what I wanted to do, I felt like, you know, the whole phrase, if you can't do it, you teach it.
Yeah, we hate that phrase. That's what idiots say.
That's what idiots say. So I wanted to kind of change that, you know, because I did have some teachers that I think were there just because you know, and they couldn't do it, so they taught it. And I wanted to be part of the change and part of the culture shift. Fell in love with it. I didn't know I would love it as much as I did. And now I dedicated my whole life to it.
Awesome, that's what it's all about. Again, a lot of love coming in, man. You got a lot of fans. We're already up to 500 live viewers, which is fantastic. So everyone's sharing their love. Your buddy Skylar Marsh says hi.
Hey, Skylar.
Tony Wright from Ohio says hi.
Hey,
Erica Ashley from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Our boy Michael Cooney's tuning in. We got everybody here. So let's get back to the technique, because you're starting to move on to the second side.
Yeah.
I noticed you kind of flipped the script with your hand position. Can you explain why?
Yeah, definitely. So if I wanted to make the same pattern that I did here on the left side, so as me rotating here, if I tried to do that here, I mean, can you imagine just like the twist that I would get, and then this wouldn't last very long?
I think that's a really interesting point, because a lot of people say they prefer to do just one hand position, right? Which works if you're just cutting vertically.
Absolutely.
But if you start to work diagonally with biasing sections, you have to learn how to kind of flip the script, so to speak. Fingertips up, fingertips down.
Gang signs.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. All right,
Yeah,
so
so
again,
it
lots
makes
of
it a little
people
more
just
comfortable,
joined, so recap what's happening.
So we're making a little shorter, flatter graduation. It's getting a little bit longer towards the front, so I'm utilizing a few different things. Vertically, I'm graduating it with my finger angle. As I pivot and rotate around, the sections are traveling a little bit farther, so in return, getting longer towards the front. And yeah, so I'm just continuing going through it, making sure I'm working really clean. I feel like the more that I've stopped using clips, the more it's forced me into being a little bit more clean. And again, I want to, even though I've been like doing this for 8 years as far as educating, 11 years as a hairdresser, I still don't know it all, and I'm still growing and learning. So it's one of the ways I've been pushing myself lately is to, you know, kind of work without clips.
So we've got a question coming in from Paula Prisby from Ocean Isle Beach.
Hey,
are you
Paula.
planning on leaving the outline at the bottom there kind of soft and wispy, or are you going to strengthen it?
I believe I'm going to strengthen it just because with the idea that I have for the internal shape, I want this to be a little bit looser and softer. So if I make this stronger, I think it'll be a good like juxtaposition between.
But you're
the
keeping
two.
an open mind. Like I
Yeah.
said, I think I'm going to. You're going to evaluate it as it develops, right?
Absolutely.
Amazing. Hi, Nanette. Nanette's tuning in. She's a big supporter, watching so many of our videos. Thank you, Nanette. Thank you, Matthew. We'll be in Croatia soon. We're going to hook up with you over there, buddy. Can you give us a recap of overall what's happening here with Kendall? There's a beautiful color happening here already. I know a lot of questions are going to be coming in. And I think you said you colored it last night.
When you say I was
It's the royal eye.
I was there when it was colored.
So who did the color?
My good friend Lucas Stoney.
What's up, Lucas?
What's up?
There he is. Okay, so Lucas,
Had
what
you
do
working
with the
last
color?
night?
Kendall had a lot going on. She's been platinum. She's trying to grow her hair out a little bit. So we worked with her natural, created something soft that transitioned into something fun that's a demi-permanent, so she's non-committed. But to kind of take her away from that relationship with bleach so that she could grow out the integrity of her hair as well.
Nicely said, nicely said. So again, tons of people watching. We're almost up to 700 live viewers, which is incredible. A lot of love out there for Clinton. It just goes to say, if you see what Clinton's got right here, he's got a little button that him and Lucas made. Homies help homies.
Oh, I can't really
And
quite
you know,
get
these
it.
guys,
True.
Lucas and Clinton, from kind of day one, they've been really instrumental in the community of hairdressing that social media has really helped propel. And I think it's a beautiful testimony to see how many people are here to support you. Dana Fraze just joined in. Donna Marola loves the color. Aaron Johnson, Homies Help Homies.
Homies Help Homies.
Yeah. Again, guys, I know tonight is a big night for all the Game of Thrones followers, but we got the Lord Tyron right here cutting some hair. I mean, I'm trying to remember the names. I read the books years ago, but I didn't watch the show. I'm like, I can't watch that. He didn't write the last book. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm not going to write a book. They're going to make a show. I'm like, wait a minute. All right, so here's a question. Are you not worried about taking or leaving too much weight from one side or the other with the cutting up versus down? So this question comes up all the time. So many people feel you have to always cut in the same direction.
Sure.
And maybe that works for them, which is fantastic.
Right.
But what's your thought process on cutting up versus cutting down?
Someone's told me the same thing. You know, if I were to cut in another direction, it's going to push the hair one way, and when I blow dry it, it's going to be screwed up, and it's going to flip one way or the other. And so, I don't know that. I've never experienced that. I haven't had a time when I've cut one specific way, and then all of a sudden the hair flips because...
Yeah, I haven't either.
I think that's if the scissors may be really dull, and they're kind of pushing some hair around, but I haven't run into that experience.
Well, since you mentioned the scissors, we did have a question a little while back from John Mark Levy about
Okay.
the length of your scissors, and
Yeah.
we were talking a bit. You've got some of your own little scissors here from your varsity education that you and Lucas are doing.
Yeah,
That's
so-
a good segue. Let's hear a little bit about them, and then tell us what you're doing technically.
Absolutely. So Lucas and I, like you said, from day one, like he has been such a good friend and such a good mentor to me, especially being in the salon when we were in the salon together. And then afterwards, me being in the school, we kind of kept in touch, and we have the same kind of work ethic, and we also have the same kind of mentality with hair cutting. So we want to be very disciplined. We know we're not the best hair cutters in the entire world, but we want to continue to grow and push ourselves and surround ourselves with people, that consistently and constantly are going to blow us away. So the community with Hairbrained has helped us out with that so much, with James and Ben and Aaron, kind of putting us together. So we decided to do a little bit of a side project and thought, what if we created a class that we've never been to? So we decided to think about if we provided a tool or designed our own scissor, that'd be great. That way we could have a little bit of best of both worlds. People would leave instead of coming with like a 7-inch scissor to try to do a technical little bob.
They come with the tools for the class.
Yeah, it would actually be involved in it. So we decided to create the side project of education called Varsity Education. So we wrote a little bit of a curriculum. We put some things in some plain language, what we thought made the most sense to us, and just kind of ran with it. We've done a few classes so far that have been pretty successful. The first one sold out in 24 hours.
That's great,
Which
man.
is great. And then the second
Awesome.
one sold out in 2 days.
So they get this beautiful scissor that you partnered with Mizutani to design
Yeah.
if they come and take a class. And where can they find out more about these classes?
On
your social media?
Social media with Clinton Cuts Hair or Lucas Doney. We both can kind of
Awesome.
feed into that.
All right, let's get back into the haircut now. We'll talk more about your class in a minute. So you finished that panel at graduation.
Absolutely.
Now what's going on?
So now here what I did, from the graduation, I wanted to have a little bit of softness that lives over top of it. Kendall has a lot of hair. So if I comb this back down to where I started, this is the other side. I did a vertical section. It allowed me to remove weight a little bit easier and be in control over my vertical dimension. And then horizontally, I'm not over directing it. So it's going to be pretty curvy and pretty round as I work towards the front until I get to on top of the ear, and then I'm going to make this a little bit flatter to the front.
Right on. Killer milestone. You just hit 1,000 live
Oh,
viewers.
my gosh.
And we're going to try to push that even further, guys. If you guys love what Clinton and what this whole kind of movement is doing, just hit your little share button right here in the corner. Right. We want to get as many people as possible watching this incredible education. We want to expose them to what craft hairdressing is. And I think Clinton and Lucas, they epitomize that. They focus on the work. They focus on being good people and sharing, and then they know the success will come after that. So hit that share button for us, please. All right, let's get back to the technique.
So again, here I'm getting to where the bone structure is starting to change just a little bit, so I want to be aware of that. So after this occipital bone happens, the head starts to curve forward a little bit, so I need to be mindful not only where I'm pulling hair into space, but actually what's going on in the bone structure. So as I take these vertical sections, I'm looking at the root and assessing how far I'm pulling it back, if section 2 is going to 1, if 1 is going to section 2, and how that travel is happening. But also I can see where the elevation is. So I'm going to lift this section up here in my fingers. My fingertips are down. It's allowing me to see the overall length, spotting my guide, and then cutting from the exterior to the interior. Stopping there for control, and then combing up here to the curvature of the bone structure at the crown.
Again, tons of love coming in for you, man. People from everywhere. James Mold joined. I know he's in costume for the party tonight. He's Cersei. No, wait. What's the big woman? What's the big female knight? The big female knight from Game of Thrones? What's her name? Princess of Tarth or something like that. Brienne of Tarth. Brienne. We gotta get James dressed up like that. Yeah, that would be perfect.
Love it.
Joe Profita, what's up, Joe? Great to have you here. Christian Gaytan joined. Awesome. All the homies are here. Homies helping homies. We love that, guys. So just hit that share button and really help some homies out. Kendall, who's our model, is a recent graduate and now is a licensed hairdresser. Congratulations. And you're down in San Diego?
Yes.
Yeah, have you found a salon to work in yet?
Not yet.
So what are you looking for?
I actually like barbering, so I prefer a heavy male clientele.
Right on. I'm a heavy
I was
male.
gonna say, she likes it now.
Here I am.
Number 4.
Yeah, can you do number 4? Well,
Can I?
right on. So you want to focus on barbering?
Yeah.
You know,
I enjoy it.
I'm gonna help hook you up with my buddy Adam. Marino. He owns a place called the Gold Comb.
Oh.
That's pretty cool. He started at Sassoon years ago, and he went on to open his own place down there in San Diego.
Frank's
So
interested.
maybe
He's
that's
coming in at 250.
Right. Yeah, me and Frank. Frank's bigger than me, man. He's definitely.
It's all the clientele you need.
Yeah, me and Frank. Frank Mussolino in the house. All right, so let's get back into the haircut. We're getting a little carried away here. Let's get back to the technical technique.
So here, now that the bone structure changed, something else changed as well. It's the hairline. So there's a lot of real estate from crown to hairline. But as we move behind the ear, it starts to get weaker. And so this is actually the weakest part of the entire hairline. So I want to be careful. I started over-directing the hair slightly backwards, so it's going to increase some of the length towards the front. So again, it's going to protect density. It's also going to give me a little bit of extra length towards the front. So at the end, I have some options after I blow dry to see what I have left. And then I have the ability to kind of sculpt some sort of outline. Again, leave it soft. I want to see what the hair will do instead of kind of forcing it into place. You know, making good decisions once I get there.
Christian Gayton giving you a big shout out. Oh my God, Cleaton. Cleaton.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paige, for sharing. Paige Kish, she shared. Thanks, guys. You know, we asked for the shares because we want as many hairdressers all over the world to get this great education that we do with HB Live and get to meet great hairdressers like Lucas and Clinton. You got a boyfriend called Billy Fallon?
Oh, I do.
Yeah, he's watching.
Hey, Billy.
Making it known.
He's watching.
Making it known.
Zach, thanks. Zach Snyder, he's a big Hairbrained community member. Killer haircut so far. The cape isn't for sale yet. Gino Chapman, our good buddy, made it for us just for fun. You know, just in case you guys haven't noticed, we are in the Redlands, right? Or how do you say it? Redlands? Redlands. I call it the Redlands. It's the north of Westeros. And it's run by the Queen Lupe. Queen Lupe, everyone say hi to Queen Lupe. There she is in the back. Give her some, give her Hi, Queen Lupe. This is her kingdom here, her dominion. Yeah, this is the Hair Color Magic Training Center.
Yep.
Yeah, and Lupe runs classes here in the Redlands. I did a class for her staff today, and then we brought Clinton in tonight to do this HB Live. So that's where we're at, in case you're wondering. We're in the Redlands, Southern California. All right, so you're moving on to the second side.
Second side. One of the things we talked about earlier about hand position, scissor position, things like that, I'm going to actually stand on the same side, not so I get any kind of push from the hair, not because of anything else, more than comfort and allowing me to still have my fingertips down and my scissors up. So it's going to allow me to work a little bit easier through this front portion. The thing I have to do is really watch out for if I'm pushing hair or pulling hair with my body. So here in the back, I'm going to start to get that original section that I created in the center.
Such a small world. Ariana just joined in. Ariana, I just mentioned Adam's shop because Kendall says she wants to be a barber. So
Oh, nice.
you probably know Ariana.
Yes, I know
Yeah,
Ariana. She's
absolutely.
awesome.
Marino. Yep.
She's very talented. I like her.
Awesome. Yep, that is some DD. Using a little bit of Davines Love here, a little
Yes.
cutting lotion. Michael Gayton was asking. That's the cutting lotion. Lots of people are asking. All right, so this cutting angle now, tell us about this. It seems to me it's a little bit more of a flat angle.
So here, yeah, especially since her head's tilted forward. So I'm really looking at where her root is, not the position in space that I'm holding it to.
Right.
So now she's tilted forward, my finger goes pretty flat. I do want to still create some sort of graduation. It's very light, but that way it has
So
some
just by the head tilted forward and cutting flat, you're going to get some flat graduation, we used to call it back in the days.
Yeah, flat
and it's overlapping the previous graduation.
Yeah, so that way I don't get any kind of line there. And I do want to point cut and make this interior so soft. So I give myself a little bit of forgiveness by doing a little bit of disconnect. If not, I'm scared that it's going to look like just flat grad here, just flat
It just
grad
builds
there.
a better head shape, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, all the years we spent, you know, when I was training in the early 90s, learning how to do perfect graduated bulbs. When I first saw this type of technique, there's a haircut called the White Winter,
Yeah.
which Julian demoed
Yeah.
a few weeks back. Was the first time when we were like, oh, wow, that works so well. Build the graduation in the nape to bring out the head shape. Then, for lack of a better word, put a slightly longer square layer over it,
Right.
let it fall in, and you get, it looks even better than a graduated bob, and it gives you room to refine. So a really, really beautiful technique. Lots of love coming in for you and just your cleanliness and your craftsmanship, as we like to call it. Yeah, it doesn't matter how you do it or what you do as long as you do it with craftsmanship. You can use a scissor, a razor, a clipper. You know, you can use anything that you want. If you've got precision and dedication and technique, it really shows.
Absolutely.
Love coming in from everywhere.
Thank you. It means so much.
Awesome. So how is this progressing now?
So here I'm getting to that spot again where the bone structure is starting to change. So I know that my body position here, I'm going to tend to pull everything towards me. So I need to take some measures. If I keep doing the same thing on the other side, I'm going to get a different end result standing in a different spot. So now if you can look at my comb, instead of combing towards me like I did on the other side, I'm actually combing away from me. So I have the section here going from the back side of the section all the way up to my cutting line, making sure I see it really strong, and then cutting from my fingertips up to my second knuckle there.
As a craft hairdresser, tools become very important. So I see that you're a user of the Sessibon, the green comb. Can you tell me what you like about it?
There's a few. We were actually talking about this last night. You know, like the hair nerd thing. Yeah, about comb. Yeah. So we were talking about this last night, and you know, there's a lot of combs that I love. You know, and there's some cool things with cool colors, and you know, you have the ability to express yourself through the color of comb that you're using. But I go back to this comb over and over and over again, just because of the flexibility. The grip on the handle I love, the spacing of the teeth is very soft. If I hit a tangle, this bends before the hair starts to pull.
You know, as someone who's been doing it for a little while, I can tell you this is the first cult comb.
Yeah.
So before this, we had there was Champion and Matador. They were just these black sawtooth combs. And then there was something called the Starflight, which is made by DuPont. And everyone kind of had them, and no one really thought much about their comb, you know? And then this came back from Japan. The first person I saw using it was Tim Hartley, of course. And then everyone in Sassoon started to go, what's that green comb? What's that green comb? And then before you knew it, it became like this cult thing. We were all using them. And again, it stuck around now. Here we are 25, 30 years later. It's a beautiful comb. We do have them available on Hairbraine Pro if anybody wants to try them. And you know what? It's a very affordable comb. A lot of combs have gotten into the $15, $18, $20 territory, which is fine, but this one's still $6 and it's a beautiful comb.
Speaking of Manny, when I was in school, Manny gifted me a little green Sessibon, and so I felt like it was my rite of passage to continue to use it, you know. Like, this is Manny's comb. I feel like I would cut hair better with it. But.
Right on. Yeah, well, that's important. And that's what mentorship is, you know, when you pass those tools on to other people.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to be looking here for some great questions. Well, why don't you recap and I'll look for some questions.
So now here above the occipital bone, I've done a little bit of layering. So I took this up to about 90 degrees. I cut it pretty flat to the head shape. So I left a little bit of length at the crown. So in case this starts to jump on me, I have a little more length here. And this kind of overhangs a little bit of the graduation there to give it a more curvier, softer, vertical shape to it. So the grad underneath is actually creating a little bit of this shape underneath it. So it provides a little bit of a structure. And then I'm doing a little bit of a layer over top, not over directing it at all, cutting it right where it lives until I get to this magic spot here, right behind the ear.
So again, lots of love coming in. We just hit 1.8 thousand live viewers, which is phenomenal.
So great.
Our boy Fernie Andog is watching. He says, what's up? What's up, Fernie?
Love
Glad to have you here. Ginger Penley joined. Thanks, Ginger. The scissors, Genevieve, these are Mizutani, and they're 5.5 inch. Is that right?
These are 5.
Oh, those
actually.
are 5.
I got a little special one made
Hey, Gina.
for me.
So can you talk about our buddy Matthew over in Croatia was talking about, you know, when working, not having a mirror and standing kind of away from what you're cutting. What helps you keep track of your over direction?
Good question.
Yeah, so good. I use a number system. So a number system, I actually started learning that from James Mold, Ben Crace. Those guys, working with them as far as like doing IBS New York and IBS Las Vegas. And all we did was talk about hair and ask about this and look at pictures of hair cutting. And they started to implement a little bit of a number system, which helped me out. So if I take section 2 to 1, 2 is going to be longer than 1, and I can map it out that way, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, 5 to 4, 6 to 5, 7 to 6. It also allows me to keep balance on both sides. So if I have 8 sections on the other side and I have 10 sections over here, there's 2 more sections of over direction that I'm using. So a number system has helped me out immensely. I used to just guess, and you know, I think a lot of hairdressers do that. They cut by feel.
Yeah, or use points around you, like the floor, the shoulder.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know a lot of hairdressers do use that, and that's been difficult for me in using a point of reference. But as far as like the number system, it's one of the best things that I've done as far as being precise and knowing what kind of over direction I have as far as those are concerned. So yeah, so there's a length on the left side as well.
So we have, pardon this interruption, but we have a
Cute
beautiful
baby alert.
mother, baby moment. This is Clinton's wife and his beautiful son.
Hey buddy.
And is it Merrick, and your name?
Lauren.
Lauren did the beautiful makeup here on
Yeah.
Kendall. Merrick approved of it.
Yeah.
Proud papa here.
Yeah.
You know, anything for attention, right? Bring a baby
Yeah,
in.
bring a baby.
Beautiful baby. Right on, guys. So it's a family affair here tonight. Wanted to say hello.
Thanks.
Excellent. Okay, let's get some great questions
Can we
here.
just go ahead and take that section one more time?
Yeah.
I kind of missed it in my...
Yeah, absolutely. So talking about the sectioning, since we're on that same subject, this is what it looked like before. So I took this from the crown.
So 1 second here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Center of the crown, around where the curvature of the bone structure is vertically at the parietal ridge. I took it all the way to the recession. The reason I did that is because the side of the bones here and the frontal bone is pretty flat, and this is pretty flat at the parietal plate. So where those two intersect, it creates a big curve. So if I'm cutting hair on the side this way and the top this way, I want to do two different things instead of matching those and just blindly following a cutting line. I want to look at the shape underneath. So from there, I'm now taking a section that is from parietal ridge to parietal ridge, and then I'm going to start pulling that backwards a little bit towards me. And I'm going to take a little clue from what's underneath. So I'm going to take a little bit of the previous, which would be like my cross check, and I'm going to take that all the way back to my guide underneath.
It's a good thing your boyfriend is watching because you have a lot of people saying how pretty you are. Yeah, you got a lot of admirers out there. Mostly female, but you know, that's a good thing.
Aaron told me one time when I was getting models for him, he's like, I was asking him all these questions, what you want to do? He's like, dude, I don't care. As long as the model's pretty, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I was like, sweet, I learned that from Aaron. I'm going to take that with me.
Yeah.
So now I'm still working completely across from parietal ridge to parietal ridge, pulling that back to a stationary guide here at the crown. So what that's going to do, and the end result, is going to make it longer towards the very front. So again, section 2 is coming back to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1, 6 to 1, until I run out of hair, and then I'm going to cut a fringe.
So you know what we used to call that before the number system?
What was it?
Ever increasing over direction.
Ever.
Ever increasing.
Ever increasing.
I can hear that on a video now.
Yeah, ever
That's
increasing.
from the 70s in Sassoon training.
I love it.
They didn't call it a stationary guide. They called it ever increasing over direction. Each section is over directed more than the previous.
Yes, ever increasing over direction. We're
So,
stealing it. Where's the education of stealing it?
There you go.
Yeah.
So how long do you plan to leave the front? There's a question coming in from Michael Bonacci.
So here in the front, if I assessed her fringe here, it's somewhat short. I cut it a bit ago, and then she had a fringe trim that was a little asymmetric.
So this hair will never reach the back, the stationary.
This will never reach the back, and I'm doing that on purpose. So what I want is for the hair to get ever increasingly longer, and then as I get
To infinitum?
infinitum.
That was another term. So seriously, there was a term in the book. So we had a book about this thing, but it was on men's hair cutting. And it was a guy called Gerald from Germany who still works with Sassoon.
Gerald from Germany.
Yeah, and he wrote the whole book. And he didn't call it like visually checking, he called it optically appraise the shape. And use ever increasing over direction, over direct to infinitum, which meant until you run out of hair.
You run out of hair.
It was amazing. But you know what I liked about it, what I remember about it, is it made me feel more intelligent.
And you still
I wasn't
remember it
just
to this
some
day.
dumb hairdresser who they had to use basic words. It was like, you know what? If you don't understand it, look it up.
Right.
You know, become
I love that.
intelligent, which is what it's all about.
Absolutely. I love that. Infinitum. That's my over direction. So again, pulling this back, what's typical about a stationary guide is that there's so much hair in my fingers. So what I really have to be careful of is that I don't get sloppy. Most hairdressers typically ask me at a point like this, like, can't you just do all that in one section? And the answer is yes. But I could also cut this in a ponytail. But I choose not to.
Well, that's the difference, but that's what makes a craftsman. I mean,
Yeah.
can't you make everything in a factory in a mold? Why make it by hand?
Right.
Why make a chair or a table by hand? Why take 6 hours to sand down a 4-inch area? Couldn't you just do it with a machine? Well, of course you could.
Of course.
But there's a difference between machine-made and handmade and craftsmanship.
Absolutely. It's totally
And
customized.
one isn't better than the other. It just depends on what you like,
Absolutely.
you know?
It's like my dad, he builds furniture, and so he built like most of the furniture in my parents' house.
Sweet.
And so my dad, if you bought a bed from him, it would be $2,000. But you can go to IKEA and get a perfectly good working bed, and they're very successful.
Yeah.
But every bed's going to be the same. And so with my dad, he makes this handcrafted, specific, customized furniture.
Right
And so
on.
that's what I want to do in hair cutting. I want this to be specific and customized for Kendall,
Because you are a
craft hairdresser.
craft
Yeah.
hairdresser.
Love it.
Thanks to our friends at Denman. They made these craft hairdresser Denman brushes, which we gave out at our teach-in in Las Vegas. And everyone that makes an order from Hairbraine.pro of over $100 will get one of these for free while supplies last. Thank you, Denman Brush.
So cool.
All right, let's get back to the technique.
So again here, just kind of finding out what's reaching for the question before, like these little bits are reaching. I still want to make sure those add in. And then I'm going to reassess once I overdirect this all the way back to this guide number 1. I want to see how long this is hanging over the fringe area. I'm going to miss the fringe down and then cut that wet. And then we'll move into the blow dry portion.
Awesome. So again, just a lot of love coming in. Guys, we would also love your questions. We got, a lot of great educators here. We've got Lupe Voss in the room, Queen of Westeros. We've got Clinton, Lucas. We're all here. We'd love your questions. Love to hear them come in. Gina Monsalfi is watching. Thanks, Gina. We haven't seen your name pop up in a little while, but I'm glad to have you here watching us again. Wayne Woodruff must be back from Italy. Wayne's traveling the world now with Davines, which is fantastic, but he must be back because he's watching. Heather Loba says the only thing she can do is buzz her kids' hair in the summer. Well, that's what I do. I just had my summer buzz cut. It was literally on the stoop at the beach
There's no
house.
stoops
Well,
in-
whatever you call that. The porch.
You're the wrong coast.
Yeah, drinking beer, getting my hair buzzed. Yeah. Where are we, Maxine Jordan? We are in the Redlands in Southern California
Julian
at
August.
Lupe Voss Hair Color Magic Studio, which is also attached to the Julian August Salon. We've got some of the stylists from Julian August watching us here tonight. We've got students from Paul Mitchell, the school. They drove all the way up from San Diego to watch their teacher Clinton here. And Clinton, you've got 2,000 people watching you live right now.
So great. That means so much.
A lot of love
It's
for
very
you,
cool.
buddy.
It's kind of cool because I'm usually the person watching on the other side and fanning out on the other side. So it's kind of cool to be here. So I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, homies help homies.
Homies help homies.
Right? You guys have been there from the beginning, always
Cheers.
contributing and being positive and sharing. And that's what it's all about. That's what our community is.
Absolutely.
Homies help homies.
Love it. So I'm going to comb this out of the way. I want to be really clean here because instead of just, again, arbitrarily just cutting something, I want to make a plan. So I took this section across. I took this section a little bit wider because it's shorter here.
It seems a little diagonal.
Yeah, so I want to see the broken hairline here. This is a little bit shorter. So I just want to make sure that I get enough, but this is a little bit longer and denser. So I'm going to control this actually in my fingers. And I'm going to take this down where it's the weakest. And I'm going to cut this here. So I've got a finger's width of elevation on that, so it'll drop back and be a little bit softer. Again, the skin is sometimes a little bit more elastic around the hairline, so I want to be pretty careful with the amount of pull or stretch that I'm putting on it. And if I am going to pull on it or give it some sort of stretch or tension, then I want to be able to make sure it's consistent.
Your buddy Todd DeSilva is watching. Said no pressure.
No pressure. Love Todd. Love Todd. Him and I won a Hairbrained Video Award.
Yeah, you a whole crew of you guys
Whole
won,
crew
huh?
of us, yeah. Todd just on Instagram just said, "Hey, you want to make a hair video?" I said, "Sure." And we all got together, made a hair video, super fun, and we were super blessed to be able to be at the Hairbrained Video Awards.
Did you have a good time?
Oh my gosh, I didn't want to leave. I know I had to, but I was like, "Can this just go on forever?
Right on.
Can
It
we
was
just
a
all
great
do
night.
this?" So fun.
Yeah, we do the Hairbrained Video Awards every year in March. So if you're out there and you're a hairdresser and you're making videos, get your videos up on the Hairbrained app. And we go through, there's no nomination process. We go through and select, kind of just like the Oscars. And we pick the ones that we think really represent the categories. And the video of the year wins $5,000, and every category winner wins $500. And we have a great old party in New York in March.
We
So
give
get your
money
videos
away.
out there.
Yeah, giving money away, I think it's great.
It's amazing.
Here's a great question from Ray Fell. How long is it supposed to take to master these cuts?
I don't know. When someone gets there, tell me, because I feel like I'm not there yet.
Yeah, it's a lifetime.
It's a lifetime.
That's why it's a craft.
Absolutely.
I mean, it takes at least 7 years to get out of the apprenticeship phase. Unfortunately, the law and the way the licensing is, it doesn't reflect that, but it does for plumbers and electricians. But for hairdressing, they kind of forgot that this was a craft.
Right.
And they said, well, here's your license, you're done. But you know, if you're an electrician or a plumber, you go get your training, you get licensed, you have an apprenticeship period of 5 to 7 years, and then you move on and you actually get granted the title of master electrician. But you know, I'd love to see something like that happening for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, you know, again, practicing well, I think is one of the things that has helped me out. And again, surrounding myself with people that are better than me. If you're the best one in the room, you're in the wrong room. I believe that. And that's proved
If
true.
you're the best one in the room, you're in the wrong room. Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I like
Wrong
that.
room.
Now, where did you hear that? Somebody, you must have picked that up somewhere.
I mean, I feel like I've heard it a good amount from some educators,
Right
just
on.
kind of coming through, and then I've adopted it. I say it at every thing that I can, you know, and yeah, I just feel like I want to be around people that are better than me, and I just want to grow and get better. So I'm still working on it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Practicing right now.
All right, so into here now, cutting the fringe. So again, recap and some tips on getting this just right.
Yeah, so again, I want this to be somewhat soft, so you can see the little bit of graduation or the little bevel towards the edge there. I want to give a little bit of softness to the front, so I have some ability to change that. I can absolutely strengthen that up if I want to at the end. But I want to keep a little bit of softness there, I believe. She has a little bit of a growth pattern here, so if you can see, if I just comb all this down, there's a little bit of a split. Some of the hair wants to go that way anyways.
So we got a couple basic questions coming in. So first I want to point out that you just hit 2.8 thousand live viewers.
That's awesome.
So people are doing something other than waiting for Game of Thrones.
Great.
Tell us
Yeah.
about your sectioning, because on the camera here, Alex Murdoch says it looks like it's a little bit diagonal,
Yes, so it's a slightly diagonal. So
kind of curved with the head shape.
kind of curved with the head shape. The right side of her fringe previously was cut shorter, so I'm really using that as a guide. So I want to take a little bit more hair there, a little bit less hair on the other side, so I can see what's the more hair that's coming off the other side. I want to make sure that
It's balanced in the end.
completely balanced. Yeah.
And now, are you cutting square or round in the fringe from Gina?
I want it to be pretty square. I use a little bit of over direction here just to make sure when the kick happens that it can sit balanced, and I want this to live somewhat natural. You know, if she gets up and she decides not to blow dry her fringe, it's going to sit kind of naturally balanced across the front there.
Awesome.
And again, I believe 85% of it's done when it's wet and 15% of it's done when it's dry. So I just want to hammer that in and be able to blow dry it and then look at it. And again, I want to take enough hair to where some of this can come over the top there and look a little bit looser over the fringe.
So you're going to leave some of that hair till after it's dry?
Yeah, well, I think too, you know, and I'm always thinking about a photo afterwards. Like, I want to be able to take a picture, use it for social media, and hopefully inspire somebody or grow from the experience. And so I think it'd be cool to have a few little extra pieces over the top. With
Well, there's a question relating to that, Clinton. Crystal Shively
Hey,
wants to know,
Crystal.
how did you decide how far back to go with the bang before you stopped?
So again, it's bone structure, and I feel like I've said that too many times, but looking at bone structure has changed things for me. So at her frontal bone, when that stops curving and starts getting flat, that hair stops living there forward. So it starts to live in other areas. And if I were to take that and cut it here, but it actually lives over here, she's going to have this little chunk that lives out of spot. So I want to make sure that I'm not taking it past the round portion of the bone structure in the front, and that all the hair on top can live where I want it to.
Lots of love coming in for the shape. People say they're so excited to see it dry and refined. Thanks, guys, for watching. Again, if you're enjoying this, please hit the share button so all your hairdressing friends can tune in and see what we're doing. So it looks like you're kind of evaluating now. Are you deciding
Yeah.
whether it's time to dry?
So then, you know, I want to step back from the shape, and originally when Lucas and I were kind of like talking about her haircut last night, I want to make the back short, front short, and everything else in between a little bit softer. So I'm standing back, I'm making sure that looks good with her bone structure, that it complements her specifically. And I do like the shape, and then I'm going to start blow drying it so we can
Awesome.
get it dry and do the fun
Because
part.
that question always comes up. How do you know, as you get this stuff ready, how do you know when it's time to pick up the blow dryer? Like, 'cause, you know, sometimes when you overcut it, it really loses the magic.
I
So,
think
like,
so,
what
too.
clues you in?
I think as far as the wet relationship goes,
The
I want-
wet relationship.
the wet relationship.
I like that. I like a wet relationship.
As far as
I mean,
I'm
he
smile.
said
I'm just
it.
gonna smile and go on. So I feel like I feel like I could always keep going. That's the thing with haircutting. I could cut this for 2 days. You know, I heard Mark Hayes talk about that one time. He cut hair for 2 days, one haircut. You're never done. You know what I mean?
Well,
So-
just one time?
Just one time, you said-
I don't think there's any haircut Mark has done for less than 2 days.
So I think when I've gotten my foundation in and I got the link set, none of the personalization is done really as far as I'm concerned. And I just want to get that to a spot where all the foundations are done. Anything that I can't control when the hair is wet, and I want to be able to assess it when it's dry. So I'm going to stop there. And I could overcut. I feel like I could overcut. I could overuse products. I think if a little bit is good, a lot is really good. I don't know if for some reason that's like how I think. And so gave myself a little bit of grace. So when I blow dry, I can refine some things at the end.
So you definitely have some questions coming in about what products you're choosing and why you're using them.
So I love products. I think that most companies make a lot of good stuff. So some friends of mine that work at Hyde Edwards Salon in San Diego, they gifted me a little bit of Dominus products just to use and carry around with me if I wanted to use them, kind of gather some stuff from some shows and things like that. And typically in the backstage, everybody's using something different and kind of just end up with what you end up with at the end of the show.
Hey, Penny.
So our buddy Matthew out in Croatia, Mr. Scribbles, he's a hairdresser and artist. Do you know him?
Okay, yeah, I've heard of him, absolutely.
So he just came up with like the best quote I think I've ever heard.
Okay.
So Jackson Pollock, you guys know Jackson
Yeah.
Pollock? He's a painter. I'm sure he did a lot of things, but he was really famous for like drip painting. It was kind of abstract. And Jackson Pollock's response to when do you know when you're done painting, his answer was, when do you know when you're done making love?
When you're done, you're done.
When you're done, you're done. You shouldn't have to ask, right?
When there's a baby, yeah.
When there's a baby. There he is, Merrick. All right, so lots of people on HB Live obviously come from a certain type of cutting background, and they use the same type of blow drying method, the wrap drying technique. But it never ends. People always say, why do you do it that way? You use a round brush. Explain why and how and what the benefit is. And talk as loud as you can.
I'll try to talk as loud as I can. So the reason I'm wrap drying her hair is because when I push the hair out of the way, it exposes the base. And so I can direct that whatever I want to. With a round brush, what happens is it gets a little bit elevated and it starts to create a little bit of lift. And so if I wrap this as tight as I can, it's going to do two things. It's going to lay flatter so I can assess the physical shape. Two, it's going to follow the curvature of her bones. So if I wrap this around here, when it drops, it's going to have a little bit of a bevel already set for me. So I'm going to wrap that around her bone structure and let it do some work for me. Now this is half of a round brush. I mean, if you really look at it. So I can utilize it as a round brush, or I can utilize it as flat wrapping. What I can't do with the round brush, based on the design, is I could flat wrap with it, but it doesn't feel good. And I don't think it's going to be the
All
best
right, here's
result.
another question that comes in all the time, because people that work with this type of method, they don't use a nozzle.
Right.
So tell me why you don't use a nozzle, other than you just crazy, because people are like, sometimes they get like so appalled, oh my God, he's not using a nozzle.
Right.
Why don't you use a nozzle, you crazy man?
I don't use a nozzle because a few things. So if I pull the blow dry back, it's blow drying more hair.
Right.
So it speeds up the time a little bit. Your good friend Julian is the one that...
Oh yeah, he has to deal with this every week. It's like a running joke. As soon as he starts blow drying, you're not using a nozzle, what's wrong with you? Like,
so Julian talked about it in a cooking scenario. You know, you could cook a steak in a microwave, and you can cook it, and if you can't eat it, but it just kind of burns it, and it doesn't really cook it the right way. Slowing something down, cooking a steak the way you should, it tends to not shock the hair. It allows it to lay where it's naturally going to lay. Even though I'm moving it around a little bit, it's still getting its natural growth pattern. So I could move this around here and then decide where that should
if you're
naturally
doing like a round brush blowout, which I imagine you do it sometimes, do you use a nozzle for that?
Yes.
You
So
do. So
that's-
different tools for different jobs.
Absolutely. So I want to
Thank
direct the hair in one spot on a round brush. Here I want to get the whole section dry as quick as I can and then get into the refinement portion.
Awesome. So as you're drawing, we can start to see that beautiful color kind of coming through. Lucas, can you come in and talk a little bit again about the color? Lots of people have just joined and maybe they haven't seen it, and they're asking a lot about, about the color. So if you want to tell us what's happening here with Kendall's color.
She was growing out her natural, and her goal is to grow it out long and healthy. So we worked with a permanent color to blend in some of her natural into the blonde that was pre-existing. And then we used the demi-permanent to create that kind of soft, pinky tone. Clinton and I both collaborated on the color, and we were like, well, we want it to be pretty and we want it to be vibrant, but we also want it to be sophisticated. So we didn't want to just put a bright, temporary color on there, so we worked with formulation and created something that's a bit dustier. You know, I like to lean more towards that kind of stuff.
I was thinking it was like a dusty rose color as it was starting to dry.
Yeah, it's like, it's vibrant, but it's still a little bit more sophisticated. So I think it works great with the haircut. We created 2 darker panels, one in the front, one in the back, to kind of accentuate the shorter portions of the haircut. And I think it's working well.
Awesome, beautiful work, beautiful color. Again, so do you work in the salon at all, Clinton?
Not yet. So my wife and I decided to create some sort of space for us to actually take a clientele.
Some sort of space, but you don't want to call it a salon.
It is.
Don't do it.
It is a salon. Yeah,
No way, we need intervention. As a 30-year salon owner, it's a very difficult job. Yeah, just create a space, but don't.
We can do whatever we want to.
Don't call it a salon, because that's when it gets hard.
So my wife and I, my wife is very talented. She's a hairdresser, where I feel like with color, I just kind of told Lucas what my idea was, and then he, with his knowledge and education, decided to make something exactly like I wanted. So my wife is a full-blown hairdresser, and so she's very talented behind the chair as well. So we wanted to create some space for her to be able to do that. I think I'll be there every once in a while. It's going to be called Citizen Salon.
Nice, nice name.
Yeah, we want people to be like citizens and to have a say and be a part of it and be locals there. So we're creating Citizen Salon. It's going to be
Will that be in San Diego?
Yeah, Oceanside actually.
And it'll just be the 2 of you.
Just 2 of us.
Right on.
Yeah, keep it small, keep it all.
Right on. Keep
Right.
it small, keep it on. Lots of love coming in. People really like the cape too, so we'll have to tell Gino to make us some more capes. Lots of love coming in.
That's great.
If you do want to post a video for the Hairbrained video contest, Glenetta, it's hairbrained.me. We also have an app, which is kind of the heart of our community. Obviously, we reach lots and lots of people on these Hairbrained Lives on Facebook, but the Hairbrained community really lives on what's called hairbrained.me. Yeah. It's our own website and our own app where really the people like Lucas and Clinton and myself and Lupe and people here in the room, that's where we all connect offline, because Facebook is kind of massive. And sometimes it's not for hairdressers, Sometimes we have people watching these that aren't hairdressers, which is great, and we welcome that, but that never happens on hairbrained.me. It's a really purely just hairdressers supporting each other. So that's what it is, Glenetta, hairbrained.me. So, question coming in.
Yeah.
Do you have a name for the technique or the haircut, besides Kendall, because
the Kendall.
The Kendall. The Kendall.
If we wanted to give it a name, and I think we could use things that are friendly with most hairdressers, triangular graduation through the center nape area, and a triangular layer, if we want to put like a name to it. It's a layer that gets longer towards the front and a graduation that gets longer towards the front. Some people call everything...
it's a combination of techniques.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But you don't just have one simple name for it.
No. And I don't think it should, you know what I mean? Collections and me have never really gotten along, like actually taking a collection and putting it on somebody else. It's just never really worked.
It's a bit limiting, isn't it?
Yeah, because what if it doesn't look good on them? I don't want to do that.
It's not like clothes. You can't just put it on someone. Mm-hmm. You're working with the fabric that grows from them.
Yeah, it's inspiration.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm going to wrap her a fringe here. If you notice, I started in a specific spot. So I want to blow dry and control the shortest spots before they control themselves. So as I go through, I flat wrap the nape area, and then I'm going to flat wrap this fringe until I get it sitting where I want it to. And then I'm going to move on to the longer portions of the haircut as well.
Paula wants to know how you're staying awake. She gets so relaxed watching this blow dry technique. Does that feel, this brush that Clinton's using is the ideal brush for wrap drying. It's called a vest brush. And what it has, besides the beautiful shape, is it's got small beads on the ends of the bristles. So it actually feels very, very relaxing on the head. And it doesn't pull, and it spreads the natural oils through. Great brush.
Absolutely. I feel like I can survive with just using this, you know what I mean?
So Dana wants to know if you'll be doing any texturizing afterwards. So what's the game plan after the blow dry?
So after it's all dry, again, I'm going to assess it, see if there's any kind of weightier spots. I do want to give a little bit of space to the ends. I don't want to tell myself that I'm going to point cut every haircut. I get that question a lot. Do you point cut everything?
Yeah.
Do you point cut every haircut? If it's suitable, you know what I mean? Kendall has a great amount of hair, and I feel like I've exhausted the technique of layering. Her layering is somewhat shorter through here. So again, I've exhausted my ability to elevate it and cut it shorter on the interior. So then if I need to make some more space as far as the interior of the haircut, I can absolutely do that. So I believe I will. I don't want to over-promise and under-deliver, you know.
So thank you guys. We've had over 67 people share this with their followers,
Great.
which is crucial to, you know, getting people to see these HB Lives. So thank you so much. Dana Weeks wants to know about what we call this pink. I think Lucas called it kind of a dusty rose, dusty pink. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely a dusty. Yeah, and that it's got that beautiful, I think that dusty part is kind of the faded look. It's not meant to look like overly shiny or neon or vivid in any way. I remember kind of early in the 90s, I know people feel like vivids and stuff like that are of the moment, but I can remember even when I was a teenager and starting out in hairdressing in the early 90s, we all used Matic Panic and Crazy Color, and there was one point where they tried to make all the colors look like rotted kind of fruit. Yeah. You know, like it can be quite beautiful. You know, there were all these really interesting. You know, because it was like they didn't want it to look comic booky and vibrant, so literally they would just mix it with like hand cream and conditioner and do anything you could do to dilute the tone to get these dusty, lived-in colors. Yes, it is live right now, Jackie Ward. We're still live. If you look on the top, that when it's live on HB Live or Facebook Live, there's a little red bar that says live. When it's not live, it says recorded live. A lot of love coming in for you guys. Love the versatility with the color placement. It goes so well with the cut. Thanks for the awesome education. That's coming in from Kaylee. Thank you, Kaylee.
Thank you, Kaylee.
So, how does that feel on your head, Kendall? People are wondering if that actually is hurting your head.
No, not at all. It's
No, that
very
brush actually feels quite good on the scalp, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so again, I'm wrapping through now these longer pieces here for the side. Again, I want them to have a little bit of a curve. And then I think the last bit of blow drying I'll do is just to give a little polish to the ends of these longer bits on the sides.
So again, lots of love coming in. Love from New Zealand. We had some people from South Africa earlier and
Nice.
Australia. You know, that's the beauty of you know, being able to do this on Facebook, because it's just so mass and so global that we're really strengthening and deepening this hair community. I know that James Mould and Ben Crace went to South Africa earlier this year to teach a class. And again, that's when everything goes right with social media, that's what happens. It builds new relationships, new connections.
Yeah, they were at Scar, I believe.
Yeah, those guys seem like just such an amazing thing.
Absolutely. Hey, man.
Right now we're located, Joanne, we're located in Redlands in Southern California. You know, we do these HB Lives all over the country, all over the world. Wherever we find our talented craft hairdressing community, we pull them in and we do some stuff. Tonight we're being hosted by Lupe Voss here. We've got a nice audience, Kel. Let's have the audience say hello. Guys, we've got students from Paul Mitchell School in San Diego and stylists here from Julie and August, Lupe Voss's salon. We've even got babies here.
We got babies.
What's up, baby? That's Clinton's son and his wife. Oh, so I have a question I've been dying to ask.
Yeah.
So this is your second career, isn't it?
This is...
Yeah.
This is...
So tell us a little bit about your first career as a rock star.
So before I cut hair, I played music for a living. I played in a band called As I Lay Dying. It's a metal band.
As I Lay Dying, you guys were really successful, weren't you?
Yeah, we had a lot of cool stuff happen. You know, we hosted some shows on MTV. Headbangers Ball. Remember that?
Headbangers Ball, yeah.
We hosted some shows like Headbangers Ball. Yeah, toured the world. Went to Japan.
Right on.
Loved it. Yeah, we did some.
And then you just had this calling to become a hairdresser.
Well, so I had a few people. So back then, I mean, what year was that? 2000 and something, where everybody like flat ironed their hair and made it really like dudes, you know.
I found a picture of you online like that. I almost used it.
Oh my
I was
God.
looking for pictures and I put in Clinton Norris, and of course the band came
Something,
up.
yeah, okay.
And there's one picture of you, dude, where you have like a super straight, like black, like man shag rocker thing.
Man shack, yes.
Yeah, because I've only ever seen you in a skull cap. And
Good. And that's
Yeah, but
yeah.
if you guys Google Clinton Norris as they lay dying, you can see it too. You're very handsome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Were. Do you like that? Do you like that past tense?
Now we're
Were.
old dogs. Yeah.
Never all talk.
It's being Googled.
The viewers went down in the Google.
Googling up.
Yep, so, you know, a lot of people are there, oh man, I know I recognize this guy. Yes, Clinton Norris from As They Lay Dying is our celebrity guest tonight. But, you know, you put down, did you play the guitar? Did you sing? What did you do?
I played bass and then I sang. So I did like the pretty parts.
Nice. So,
Sensitive.
right on.
Singing parts.
The
yeah.
sensitive parts
Sensitive
of
parts.
heavy metal.
Yeah.
Was it hardcore heavy metal? Like, what was the...
People had a bunch of different names for it. Again, it's
Yeah.
like triangular graduations. Like
Yeah,
we call
yeah,
it,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Don't
But,
label me, man.
Don't label me,
I'm an
man.
artist, dude.
Yeah.
Right on.
It was metal. Metal is what I would say. Yeah.
Awesome. So you were from a metal band,
Yeah.
and now you're cutting hair. So how'd you make that transition?
So a few people suggested that I do it. They were like, hey, you know, I feel like the attention to detail that I put into either playing music or fashion sense or whatever, they said that, you know, I think if I didn't do it, didn't play music anymore, like, what would you do? That came up all the time with like people on tour, like, if we didn't do this, what would we do? And that was always what I said. I think if I didn't do this, I would do hair. And there is a connection to it at some point, you know. I feel like using instruments and, you know,
Well, it's a craft. Let's be honest. Let's take it back to the root.
Absolutely.
Learning to play an instrument, and then the discipline, because anybody can pick it up and make noise.
Right.
Just like hair. A lot of people pick up their tools and they just make noise with the hair.
Absolutely.
But people who practice and learn the chords, and you know, they become craftspeople, and they do the work that's necessary.
Yeah, and again, it's the same kind of thing with music. There are people that, you know, even like copying things, you know, they'll find something that's good, kind of reinvent it, make it their own, and I love that. And I love that about the music industry, but I feel like there's something about, you know, just me and Kendall and me creating something specifically for her, and if I do a good job or a bad job, succeed or fail, it's all on me, you know, it's not on a group of dudes standing in a, you know.
So just like I warned you about, people just don't like when the blow drays take a long time. They say it has to be dry by now. Yeah.
I hope so.
And are you happy? You're happy? You sure you're happy? Yeah, okay. Somebody
I hope
said,
it's right.
she looks miserable. I said, I don't think she's miserable. She's very happy.
And
But it's what happens. So, okay, now the hair is dry. Thank God.
I got it right.
It took forever.
Oh my god.
I
Now
didn't like it
what?
as much as you guys didn't like it. So now I'm going to assess the shape here. So looking at the layer that I created here on the top, I'm going to elevate that to the same elevation in over direction, and then I'm going to chip into that a little bit, just like the question we had earlier. Looking at it, it had a little bit of extra density on the edges, so I wanted to create a little bit of space there, so when I drop it, it can integrate into anywhere. So I push it to either side. It'll kind of fall seamlessly into everything else. It is blended. That's what people ask, are you blending it? And it's connected. It's blended. It's just the ends of the hair, I want them to be a little bit softer and kind of integrated into everything else. And so I'm just pointing into those edges, creating more space. One of the questions I get a lot is, how do you know when you're done? You know?
Ask Jackson Pollock.
Yeah, you know. I'll let him answer that. Yeah. But again, going through and just creating a little bit of space on the edges.
How long have you been cutting hair? Michael Bartlett's asking.
Since 2006. So someone do the math. I'm a hairdresser. What is that? 11 years?
Yeah.
11 years. Yeah.
So somebody did Google you.
Great.
That's great. Did anybody in the room find it? You guys found it? Can we see it?
Be nice. Pick a good one. Pick a good one.
No, that's not the one I was looking for. There's one just of him. So Sabrina wants to know if you ever missed the band life.
I miss being on stage and entertaining people. That was fun, you know.
Well, you're doing it again now as a hairdressing educator, you know?
Yeah, I learned a lot from those experiences, you know, having confidence. We were talking about my last show that I ever played was in Japan. and it was in front of thousands and thousands of people. This black hair first part, like 10,000 people.
Yeah.
And I was so comfortable at that show. I felt like that was the best. You know what I mean? And but you know, when there's a room of like 11 people, you get a little more nervous. You can see their eyeballs. You know, and but I do miss some aspects of it. Being in a bus with 11 sweaty dudes. No. Did you find a good one?
So any tips on point cutting? Our buddy James Mold needs some tips on point cutting.
So James,
yeah, here we go, baby. Standing in front of the amps. Yeah, baby. I'm a rock star.
Trying to be tough.
Hugging an amp.
Yeah.
Hugging the amp.
Hugging an amp.
Yes.
Awesome. We had some good endorsements at the time. Yeah, so pointing into what I don't want to do is I don't want to destroy the shape. So I don't want to be so aggressive that I change this into something else. The work should have been done when the hair was wet. So here I'm just adjusting some things. So if I were to take my scissor and adjust it to where I cut like this, it's going to make a huge piece and a chunk out of there. So I've created a little concave layer on the inside, another concave layer on the inside, and I'm going to create these little peaks of weight, which if I do want to create that, that's absolutely what I would do. But if I want to create a little bit of space and a little bit of movement, that's what I'm actually going to focus on, is actually going through and giving a little bit of space to the interior. So one thing that I did here, so I cut these two side panels separately, right? So this little bit of an overhang, I'm going to soften that a little bit more, so I still have a corner there.
You can tell how much hair she has in this.
Oh my gosh, right?
I love this moment. Your dad's watching, Larry Norris. He says,
Hey, Dad.
"Great, looking great, Clint."
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
so often when we're broadcasting, people's parents tune in.
Love it.
You
We
know,
just
I
be
think that's
flossing.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen my mom's name pop up. She usually watches them all.
Oh, she does. That's so great.
She likes all the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the top panel and the bottom panel, integrating those into each other, just a little bit of space. And then this bottom has a lot of strength, so again, going to where that was cut. And it's going parallel to the hair. Again, I don't want to destroy the shape, I just want to give it space, so when I style it, she styles it, it doesn't wind up being a little bit blocky sometimes.
Yeah, so I mean, again, this kind of proves why you had to smooth it out so much. Your hair was so thick and you had to kind of really wrap dry. Do you sometimes think that the head is like an ironing board and you're kind of
Yeah,
just ironing it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you can really adjust the density using point cutting.
Absolutely.
And you're just going straight in. I think sometimes we call it parallel point cutting.
Yeah, just
so that
barely-
you don't change the shape.
Like this is a really good example here. So the hair's completely straight up and down, my scissors doing the same thing. I'm really, too, since this is like a fun way to cut hair, I think it's really fun to do this. But at the same time, again, I can get carried away, especially in the crown area where there is some irregularities in growth pattern. So again, less is more. I just want to create some space in the end so it can live really well with everything else. I'm going to do the same thing to this side.
Frank Mussolino says my mom's not watching because she's pissed because I'm always on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Frank, we'll be home soon. Jersey strong. So now, since we opened up this can of worms
Okay.
about the band,
Okay.
Sarah wants to know, did you cut the band's hair?
Oh my gosh, no, I never did that. I did relax my hair one time by myself. I colored my own hair. Cutting, never. Never.
I'd say the very first thing I ever did to my hair was relax it.
Really?
Yeah, when I was like in junior high school,
And then you
I
dyed
have
it.
crazy curly hair, and it was just like not cool to have crazy curly hair as a teenager. And I went and bought like Revlon extra strength. And I didn't even read the box. I just like slapped it on my head, combed it through, left it on until I was like had to run and stick my head in the shower. And I ended up with a huge scab across my forehead. Oh my god! So naturally, I became a hairdresser.
Right.
It was pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, that never happened to me. I didn't get the whole scalp business. But, you know, I make my hair so black at times. Like, it was just dark as a soul. Game of Thrones, I was looking trying to fit in with her. Never seen an episode. Sorry. Yeah. I like The Office. That's what I'm watching. I'm trying to watch something. Yeah. Tilt forward for me a little bit? Perfect.
So how do you kind of pattern this out now? So you're going in and you're in the refining stage, but you're still taking sections and very technical about it. Tell us about the sectioning pattern.
So here in the back, again vertically, what I want to do is go through and create a little bit of space. And when I've worked vertically, what I tend to see is I create space here that then collapses on top of itself. Now this can be really dangerous if I don't take the same amount of hair out of this section as the next section. then my layering can get kind of lumpy because this will have more weight removed, the next one will be a little heavier, more weight removed, less one. So I want to be able to create the same amount of space between each section, so I have to be really careful. And again, work methodically, work with discipline, and just kind of be really careful. Two, this is where the disconnection is over top of the graduation at the bottom. So I want to soften the edges of this layer as well so it can integrate into the graduation as well.
Looks like some of your family friends are also watching, the Shepherds.
Yes.
Friends of your parents who shepherd.
So sweet.
Where did you grow up? Did you grow up in Minnesota?
No, I grew up in Texas.
Oh, Texas, because
Yeah.
they're from Minnesota.
I'm a Texas guy from the beginning, and then I've been in California for 15 years.
Right on.
Yeah.
What part of Texas did you grow up in?
Oh, it's a little town that you've never heard of. It's called Abilene. Yeah. 3 hours west of Dallas, that's what everybody knows.
That's like a good name, Abilene, Texas.
Abilene, Texas.
I feel like I have heard of it. It's got to be known for something besides the famous Clinton Norris from
Yeah.
Ivy Lake Dying and / Paul Mitchell, the school educator,
Yeah.
came from there.
No, there's a train that goes through the town. That's about it. There's a mall there.
There's only one way in and one way out. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a mall there, I think. That's about it. Yeah.
So we have a question coming in from Nikki D. Did you cut short to long on the top of the head to push the hair forward? So I guess that's what, yes. You want to explain that?
So from parietal ridge to parietal ridge, my cutting line was flat. So I had a square cutting line this way. So I utilized over direction here to make it longer towards the front. I could have made a different decision. I could have actually stood on the side, taken this section, cut from my fingertips to my knuckles, and created the geometric shape with my finger angle. But I wanted to prioritize that I made this a specific length from parietal to parietal, and then this could be softer because I utilize over direction to create the shape.
Here's a question from Vince Wiley. Obviously you've been point cutting, just using the same scissor or shear, or as I like to call them, shearsers.
Shearsers?
To make sure I don't offend anyone, because people can get really offended depending on which one you choose.
So
I've now officially started to call them shearsers.
Shearsers.
So I can cover all the denominations.
Right.
It's a non-denominational scissor. It's a shearser.
Shearser. I love that.
But again, back to the question. What was the question? Oh, for all the point cutting, could you have used texturizing shearsers as well?
I could have. One of the things that I've come across, experimenting with tools at the beginning of my journey as a hairdresser, with a texturizing scissor, or people call it some other things. What do they call it? Like a
softening shear,
scissors, or yeah, people have different names for everything. But when I think about a scissor like that, what it does is it predetermines how much hair should come out of each individual section, instead of me, again, as a craftsman, choosing how much hair comes out of a specific area. So that kind of minimizes anything that I could be doing.
All right, so now you're coming into the hairline,
Yeah.
and you've obviously decided to go with a strong line.
Yeah, so when I started looking at the end result, there's a lot of wispies here. The weakest part of her hairline is at this corner, so I decided to go, you can see how much hair is there. So the weakest, there's a little stronger there, so I just kind of mowed through that just to make that flat. I use the broad side of my scissor, or the flat side, like a blunt cutting technique. And then I'm going back through and using just the edges of my scissor to make it slightly softer.
How are you deciding where you want to put the line?
Just looking and assessing at her weakest of their hairline. So if we get to the center here, you can tell just by what hair is left, where like these little weak spots are, and there's a little stronger spot there. So I wanted just to be able to make sure that I went up past any kind of irregularity in growth, just to make that a little bit shorter, so it has some sort of stamped in kind of feel to the.
And now
to the
changing
edges.
to kind of more working with the point?
Yeah, because club cutting here, again, like if I work through, if I cut it just like that, it's only going to look like a strong line if I leave it there. But again, when she showers, and puts product in her hair, it's not going to maybe stay there. So what I want to do with the edges of my scissor is give it a little bit of softness, but also detail and kind of chip into the line that I've created here at the very bottom. It's almost like I'm polishing like the edges of the length.
And you can really see how it makes that graduation kind of stand out.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's obviously nice to leave the wispies on the neck, but if you kind of bring that strong line in, it really makes the graduation pop out and changes the whole look of the profile.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it gives it a little bit of strength. If you look at the interior being so wide, it kind of gives it a good little design property to it. And then again, I'm just going to keep combing until nothing else kind of drops out. Every time I comb, something else is going to change a little bit, but if I take the time to go through and detail all these little bits, then as an end result, she's going to be more happy with it once she blow dries and styles it herself.
So Matthew, our buddy from Croatia, always with the great questions.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how you pull the scissor back
Yeah.
as you cut the line and as you point cut?
So a lot of times I feel like if I pull on the way back, I'm not going to push any hair. If you look at the tips of my scissors, they're very skinny. So we had Mizutani make this varsity scissor with a really pointy tip to it. So we could do work like this. Now, if I were just to cut completely flat, sometimes the weakness of the scissor at the very end doesn't allow me to get the line that I want to. So if I pull back, it doesn't push any hair with a little smaller tip end of the scissor.
Yeah, I've often found that as well as pulling back, it gives, even though the line is crisp, it's a softer line. It's like tweezing. Rather
Absolutely.
than when you close on the way in, you're making lots of little blunt cuts. When you close on the way out, it's defined, but it's got like a graduation on it, which helps it sit into the hairline.
Absolutely. And
Hi,
then
Gwen. Lots of people still joining on and off. Awesome. So here comes a question that I think you're about to address.
okay,
Sarah Colby, do you prefer a trimmer or a razor to clean up the neck?
trimmer. I feel I've never really owned a razor. Sorry, but never really. Your eyes aren't looking at me. I never really owned a razor, so that kind of scares me. This doesn't scare me. And then just taking this length off here, I've used a trimmer. Never used a razor for the neckline here. I think it's just by personal experience. Like I've shaved my face one time. I think in 1999 I shaved it. Last time, and it was with a razor. Never gonna do it again. So trimmer guy.
Right on.
Yeah. But again, I'm not bumping into the line. I'm not changing it with the trimmer. I'm just taking off the neck hair there.
Awesome. Awesome. So after this, are there any more magical things, or is this kind of rounding third base here?
This is rounding third base. I'm at the slide into home.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Looks great. The color and everything's so complementary to this dusty rose that Lucas did.
Absolutely.
I can really, again, sometimes as you're watching these things and it's wet, you're looking at all these different panels, trying to see how it's all going to come together. And I love the way this is coming together here.
Thank
It's
you.
beautiful, Kendall. Let's see that smile.
And I'm just going to dress it out a little bit, just putting a little bit of spray, kind of provoking the hair a little bit just to move around. I like these little softer bits here so we can expand those. Give a little wisp to them. A little bit of design quality.
So again, lots of questions about product.
Yeah.
What are you using? Why?
Again, this is some of the products that some friends let me use. Just coming back from IBS Las Vegas, kind of found like this in the prep room and I kept it. Sorry if it's anybody, but this is what I'm using. But this is a Daubin spray, and so it's just going to give it like a medium hold. I think it's called your.
That's a brilliant spray. It's
Your
designed by
Assistant,
Angelo. It's called Your Assistant, designed by Angelo Seminara, and this is just an incredible, exactly for what you're doing. It's called Perfecting Hairspray.
Okay.
It's
Hey,
for kind of
Josh
working with the
LaMonica.
haircut, expanding texture.
Yeah.
What's up, Josh?
Love Josh.
The only man who works harder than me and travels more than me, Josh LaMonica. We'll cross paths somewhere. I think we're going to do razor versus clipper in the UK, me and
Oh.
Josh. What do you think?
I love it.
What do you think?
That guy's one of my
Josh?
favorites by far.
Josh wants a quick recap, so we had to give Josh a recap.
Oh gosh.
Josh wants a quick recap. Josh actually helped me out with some of my hair cutting in IBS New York. A little bit of scissor comb made me feel good. So we did a triangular graduation, shorter here in the nape area. After I created that graduation, I then did a layer over top of that just to remove a little bit of weight. Kim has a lot of hair. I followed the head shape horizontally until I got behind the ear and then started to pull everything backwards so it would get longer and softer. And then through the top, I cross-checked this back section, took that as a stationary guide, section 2 into 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1, infinite over direction to section number 1.
Ever increasing over
Ever increasing over direction. I'm
To
learning.
infinitum.
To infinitum.
To infinitum.
And then lastly, I cut her fringe wet. I left a little bit of extra length over top of that to dress it out. And then I created a little bit of lighter bits over top just by styling it and creating some wispiness to it.
Right on.
Super summertime.
Great job. Enjoyed so much hanging out with you,
Appreciate
Clinton.
it.
Lucas, come on in here.
Yeah,
Lucas came down. He did the collar. He helped his buddy Clinton.
Yeah, homies
Capturing
help
some stuff. Thank you all for watching us. Homies help homies.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Thanks. Peace out, everybody. Have a great one.
You.